Welcome everyone, another episode of Dummies on the Hardwood. As you can see this week, it's just me and Bobby. Isaac is not feeling too good, so obviously, we had to get Uno up in here. Uno's in the middle right here. Before we even get started with today's episode, we just want to give a big shout out to everybody who's subscribed to us on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, Instagram. We want to give a big shout out. Thank you for the support and thank you for the love as we continue to grow our podcast. With that being said, man, we've got a lot of drama to unfold this week. It has been a hell of a fucking week.
Hell of a week.
I think, it's not to the effect of Luka Doncic per se, but it's like, oh my God, this is like reality TV type of shit, right? Before we start, there's two things that I want to talk about. We want to talk about the drama between Stephen A. Smith, LeBron James, and we want to also talk about the Ja Morant drama. But I want to talk about the Stephen A. Smith shit first and LeBron. That sounds so funny, man. Do you see all that shit that's going on between those two, man? It's like two grown-ass kids arguing.
It really has been. And, it's over some petty stuff, too. Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James getting into it this week. Stephen A. Smith went on his rant about LeBron James, not critiquing him as a father, but, critiquing him, for the way he handled this situation. LeBron James could have handled this situation in a more professional manner than how he did, going on social media and posting a video of Stephen A. Smith. This is just, very unprofessional of LeBron James, and it's crazy because we all see him as somebody who is, the one of the greatest basketball players on the planet. In my opinion, he's the greatest player of all time. But that's neither here nor there. The bottom line is, LeBron James was upset about some things that Stephen A. Smith had said about him. Well, not about him per se, but about Bronny.
His son, yeah.
Yeah. So Bronny, for those of you who've been living underneath a rock, Stephen A. Smith had basically said that something to the effect of, against the Philadelphia 76ers, that Bronny was not ready at that point to be in the NBA. And then Stephen A. Smith was confronted by LeBron James a few weeks back in the New York Knicks game, and it from there it started to unravel. LeBron James went out on the Pat McAfee show and talked about it, and
wasn't that all necessary, man?
Yeah, that's my point. The bottom line is it made no sense why LeBron James went out there and handled it so publicly when he could have just went behind the scenes and spoke about the incident.
But it's interesting you say that, man, because I LeBron James, like he's a dude who's handled criticism throughout his whole 20-year career. He's heard it all, right? And I mean, there's some, everybody's gonna have their own argument on this subject. Oh, it's his son, yeah, and everybody gets it. It's family, right? You're gonna defend your family, and I completely understand. But you got to separate that from basketball, and that's the bottom line. And I think that's what the issue was with LeBron James and Stephen A. Smith. And I don't blame Stephen A. Smith, man, because personally, he's a critic. He's getting paid to do his job, right? He's going to critique you. He's going to critique your son, man, and you got to take it, man. You got to take it, right? Yep. And then so his performances after that, when he, obviously played like shit in Indiana, he had the game-winning bucket. Then the next day in Chicago, he throws one of the worst passes I've ever seen, by LeBron James, and that's not a very LeBron James type play. And you could tell the Indiana and Chicago game, the incident with Stephen A. Smith was impacting his game because those two games, they were not very LeBron-like games. He did solid, but they weren't LeBron James-esque. And, I think it is, just petty that LeBron James handled it the way he did. This situation didn't have to be handled through social media or the media. At the end of the day, LeBron James, you're a professional basketball player. Stephen A. Smith is a sports critic. Just let Stephen A. Smith do his job. That's it. Yeah. Let him do his job. You go out there and play basketball. Stephen A. Smith does his job. Everything's all peachy and keen. Yeah, and I mean, look, it's just but not only I won't say it's also LeBron's fault too. It's kind of Stephen A. Smith's fault too, because he's reacting to all this shit too. He had to do a whole 17-minute spiel on First Take on LeBron James, and he basically called him out on live television.
Yeah,
it's like, dude, come on, man.
I saw that
like,
too. I saw that too, and I was pretty like, come on, bro. Like, you really have to go to that point where you have to have a segment about it.
But it's like, my thing is like this, bro. We've got two grown ass fucking men arguing, bro. That's literally what it is. This is like reality TV.
It really is.
And I mean, honestly, this is helping NBA ratings because NBA ratings have been in the shit show for a while. Right? And now look, now we got, a well-known sports critic in Stephen A. Smith. We got one of the greatest players of all time to play the game in LeBron James talking shit literally through social media and through different platforms. You know what I mean? Pat McAfee's show, he literally went out and talked shit. Stephen A. Smith follows that up, and he follows it up on First Take to talk shit. It's like, dude, like, you guys are grown-ass men. I really doubt that this thing is going to ever be solved because Stephen A. Smith doesn't want to deal with it. I also read an article that Kendrick Perkins told LeBron, into the effect of, I could butcher it, so forgive me. But he basically said to the effect of, like, dude, like, stop complaining. Just stop. And then and then he was talking about Bronny, and then, LeBron blocked him, or LeBron stopped talking to him, and LeBron James blocked him on, or Kendrick Perkins blocked him on as well, or something like that. I saw a post on it. I could be wrong, but it's very similar. It's like when you start talking smack about his son, and more importantly his son, it's like he kind of draws the line. But it's like, dude, like that's their job. They're gonna talk about your son,
and it's understandable. Like, I mean, you mentioned it. It's understandable why LeBron James would have a reaction, but at the end of the day, you have to recognize that Stephen A. Smith is gonna do his job. Bronny was playing like shit at the time. Bronny James went out there in Philadelphia. He struggled. Okay, Stephen A. Smith is going to do his job. Why are you letting that affect your game, dude? Man. And Stephen A. Smith, he had that 17-minute rant on First Take, and I was listening to it too. And he's basically trying to prove why, he thinks MJ is the greatest player of all time, and it's understandable. But Stephen A. Smith, and it's like we get it, dude. But did you have to go that low to basically say LeBron James, this is why you're the greatest second player of the planet? Stephen A. Smith is explaining his reason why LeBron James is basically upset with him. That is the real reason. That's what, according to Stephen A. Smith. And then Stephen A. Smith had to go on that rant, and it's like, dude, you don't need to do that. Bro, you don't need to do that.
Again, like I said, it's like you guys are just arguing over the dumbest thing.
The dumbest shit.
Talk it out as men, man.
Talk it out as men, but don't do it through the media, bro. That's just pathetic.
Yeah, it just doesn't bode well, for everyone else out there. I mean, look, everybody's gonna want to defend LeBron, because it is LeBron James, and if you talk shit about his son, you're ousted. That's just reality, man. It's so dumb, dude. It's like, bro, separate that shit, bro. Separate that shit. I understand it comes a fine line, but man, you are a basketball player, bro. Your son is a professional basketball player, man. People are going to talk shit about him all the time. If not, all the time, they're going to talk crap about him.
Yeah, and it's crazy, right? It's crazy that we have to even talk about this because it's just so pathetic. It's so pathetic. Like LeBron James and Stephen A. Smith. LeBron James, let it go. Stephen A. Smith, let it go.
But also, too, man,
it's like
it like I said, it all started with the confrontation, and was that uncalled for? Yes, in my opinion, that was uncalled for.
You don't go mid-game against the New York Knicks and basically tell Stephen A. Smith to keep my son's name out of your mouth. You don't. I mean, you could have handled that outside. You could have handled that in the tunnel. You could have handled that someplace else where cameras weren't recording. You could have handled. They could have. Basically, what we're saying is the situation could have been handled in a better way, and it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, look, and this is the drama that it's gonna help NBA ratings, man, because
those NBA ratings are gonna be up.
man. Because if we get the Lakers in the finals, this is gonna be interesting. Lakers in the finals, and Stephen A. Smith's gonna, he's gonna be there, man.
He even said it. He's like, I'd rather be in LA. It's possible. We'll see how the Lakers do.
Yeah, man. Even Big Perk, man. But it's like, again, like it's like, dude, like we have to call for what it is, man. It's just super unprofessional, super uncalled for. Two grown men arguing over stupid shit. I don't know, man.
I can't even believe. I can't even believe we're even talking about this.
Lost. I don't want to keep talking in circles about this shit.
Yeah, because it's just fucking stupid.
But let us know who you guys think is in the right. Some people are saying LeBron's in the right. Some people are saying Stephen A. is in the right. Me personally, I don't think nobody's in the right. Stephen A. Smith has the right to say what he wants about LeBron James and his son. He's a sports critic. LeBron James has every right to defend his son. You know, you can flip a coin.
Agreed.
That's neither here nor there.
Agreed.
But, I mean, we're going to talk about more drama because there's some drama going on in Memphis. I know you heard about that. I
actually had that notification the other day while I was at your gym, at the gym working out with you. By the way, that was a fucking great class.
I appreciate
I woke up
that.
the other day, I was sore as shit.
Shout out to Epic Fitness, man. Epic Fitness. Thank you, Adam.
But anyways, ja Morant basically is in the news this week, and the reason why he's in the news is not partially, but basically he may be the reason why Taylor Jenkins was fired.
Do you believe that?
Yeah, I do believe that. I really do. You know, it goes back to Zach Kleiman, the GM for the Memphis Grizzlies. You know, Zach Kleiman basically went out and said that he didn't speak to any of the Grizzlies players. You know, he just said, you know, this decision was my decision alone. You know, I honestly think he's kind of full of it.
Yeah, he's BSing in my opinion.
But, you know, I think that his decision was impacted by Ja Morant.
Definitely. It most definitely was.
You know, I mean, personally for me, I mean, Zach Kleiman prioritized a guy who, you know, has been very, very unprofessional the past few seasons, you know, and they let go of somebody who was one of the best coaches in the league.
And more professional.
Way more professional. Zach, like we could go on and on about Taylor Jenkins. He's a phenomenal coach in this league. And it's unfortunate that he was let go. And again, it's another scapegoat. You know, it goes back to the player empowerment.
Yep. It's just, you know, like I said, Ja Morant, you know, he's a hell of a talent, man. It's just a shame. If he can clean up his attitude, you know, then, you know, I can be like, all right, man, you know, then this man's he's a damn good point guard as is, man. But his issue is as soon as he entered the league, you know, he got the bag. He started acting big-headed. He wanted to flex, you know, and stuff like that. It's like, bro, like, come on now, man. That's just all unnecessary, bro.
Yeah,
like,
just go out there and
play your game, bro. Go out there, play your game. Like, who you out here talking shit with? LeBron James? He'll beat you one-on-one any day of the week, bro. It's what it is. You know, me personally, like, I would have never. The timing of it is just suspicious. You know what I mean? Because there's like how many games left? Like 10, 12 games left?
Yeah. No, 40. About 10.
10, 12 games left, whatever, somewhere around there. It's just suspicious. It's like, why would you fire someone right when they're about to end up? And the Memphis Grizzlies are the 5th seed.
They're the 5th
That's
seed.
what makes it even worse for me.
And that's the confusing part. It's like the Memphis Grizzlies are a really good team. They're well coached. I don't understand why Taylor Jenkins was let go. But the only thing that I can think of, the reason why he was let go, was basically because Ja Morant, probably, in my opinion, this is my theory, Ja Morant went up to Zach Kleiman and said, hey, you know what? I don't like Taylor Jenkins. And then Zach Kleiman was like, it's either me or him. Zach Kleiman was like, I want to keep you, Ja. We don't want to lose you. We're going to let go of Taylor Jenkins. And that's what happened.
Yeah, so, because when he said, like, oh, you know, I didn't console my players, like, really, bro? Really?
Like, that was tough.
Yeah, because
that was tough. Like, come on, bro.
Dude, bro, because, like, you saw the report that he didn't like the offense, and then you're coming out saying, like, you know, that you made a decision on your own. It's like, okay, that's not adding up. Something's more going on. Me personally, I feel like he lost control of the locker room a little bit. That's just my opinion. Because Taylor Swift, he seems like a very
Taylor Swift.
Talking about Taylor Swift. That's a whole nother ball game, man. That's a whole other thing.
Error.
My bad, chat. My bad. Taylor Jenkins. I feel like Taylor Jenkins lost control of the locker room. Right, because especially, you know, obviously with the whole thing between Saltio and Dama and Desmond Bain, right? Apparently they've been beefing since 2023, you know, according to reports. It's never going to come out to the surface, and the truth's never going to come out. But I feel like he lost control of the locker room. Ja Morant probably didn't respect him, you know, as a coach. It's a shame, you know, because his actions never really backed it up. I don't know, man, because he's a hot commodity right now as a coach, and it's a shame because their assistant coach got thrown into the fire, right? So, like I said, the timing of it is suspicious. Where do you think? How do you think this will affect Memphis going forward in the long term?
I think going forward right now, it's gonna impact Memphis's. I think it's going to impact Memphis as a team, their ability to be on the court together, because with the firing, and the whole Desmond Bane and Santi Aldama, the chemistry just does not seem like it's there. And I'm going to disagree with you. I think that Taylor Jenkins actually had I think he had good control of the locker room. I thought he held it down for the players.
I don't think so.
I thought he held it down. It just got to the point where, the whole Ja thing got out of hand, and Taylor Jenkins did the best he could with that situation, and it's unfortunate that he got fired because Taylor Jenkins was doing a great job with the Memphis Grizzlies. They struggled this season against 500 teams. People are going to point to that. I don't think that was an issue per se, because the Grizzlies in the past have shown that they can beat 500 teams when fully locked in. So it just tells me that there was something else going on there. And I don't think Taylor Jenkins lost the locker room. I think it goes deeper than that.
But also, too, man, you got to keep in mind that last year this dude didn't have his roster.
Yeah.
And also, too, Ja Morant, just keep this in mind, folks. Ja Morant was suspended almost all of last year, because of some decisions he made, And so that definitely had an effect. And what Taylor Jenkins had with his team and his roster constructed, you got to give the man his flowers, man. He did a damn good job.
And that's what I'm saying. And I don't think he lost the locker room. I think there's a deeper issue that comes down to, Ja Morant, not liking the offense and going up to Zach Kleiman and basically saying it's me or him. It's me or him. Yeah. And then Zach Kleiman was like, okay, Ja, we'll keep you and we'll let go of Taylor. Yeah, I don't.
But again, you saw what happened in Utah between Aldama and Bane. You saw that, right?
Yeah.
I from what I reported, I saw a post somewhere that I think Desmond Bane was talking shit, or he's telling Santi Aldama, "Are you gonna fucking play defense now or what?" And then Santi Aldama screamed to the effect of "fuck you," and then they had a show tussle again. Though. I saw that. That was on one. I saw that on Facebook somewhere.
No, I saw the video.
Yeah, you saw the video. Yeah, but I saw the audio somewhere on social media. It's just again, like, I feel like at that time, what was addressed when that happened? Did Taylor Jenkins pull them aside and say, "Hey guys, we gotta be professional"? We don't know. There's so many unknowns. But from what I can see, what I can tell, again, my personal opinion, I feel like he lost some control of the locker room. He lost because Desmond Bane's a hothead. Ja Morant's the Grizzlies are a bunch of young hotheads, right? They don't have a veteran leader. There's no leadership out there. Who's the leader?
No one.
Yeah. I mean, they traded Marcus Smart, which was, in my opinion, kind of dumb, but okay. Like, 'cause he brought that leadership, and that's what they don't have. They needed that leadership to be able to guide them, and to straighten them up and say, "Hey guys, stop fucking around and let's fucking play ball and let's hoop." Right? We're acting like a bunch of, like little fucking immature children right now, and that's what's going on in Memphis. It's a shame, man. It's a shame. Like, I think they really need to go out there and get a veteran to bring him out there, and they got a young coach, and I hope he does great. But look, they need to get a veteran out there to help shore up some,
The Memphis just needs to pick a direction. They just need to find somebody that can help lead this team.
Does Ja Morant get traded?
Yeah, Ja Morant gets traded.
He's calling it.
I think Ja Morant gets traded. I mean, Jaren Jackson Jr., if he wins Defensive Player of the Year award, he's going to get a contract too. So,
but it's like at that point, who do you prioritize?
But I mean, yeah, at that point, at the end of the day, who's the player that you would pay the most money for? Who's more valuable? In my opinion, it's Jaren Jackson Jr. It's not Ja Morant.
Jaren Jackson Jr. is shown up, yeah.
Ja Morant just played himself into the trade block, and some team is going to, pay up for Ja Morant, because I don't think that, I think the reason why Memphis, they don't stink, but Memphis there's so much toxicity out there, and it stems from Ja Morant.
Exactly.
So if they trade away that piece in Ja Morant, I think they could get a pretty good piece back, and you build around Desmond Bane and you build around Jaren Jackson Jr. Now, where Ja Morant goes, where do you see him going?
Shit, man. I think, things are going in the way things are going out of Atlanta with Trae Young. I mean,
Swap point guards?
Yeah, swap point guards. That for me, I could see that realistically happening. It's a good point guard swap, right? You finally, the Atlanta finally gets, they get a guard who, Ja Morant, who when consistent and, stays out of trouble, he's one of the prolific players to play the game. Definitely. But more so for Memphis, how I look at it for Memphis is, they have a leader. Trae Young, he's a veteran. He can bring something to the locker room, you know what I mean? Just with his presence, and he'll be setting up, Jaren Jackson Jr. on those lobs. Can you imagine those lobs? Oh my goodness, those lobs! Him and Zach Edey and Jaren Jackson Jr. spacing out the floor. I mean, dude, it's Desmond Bane out there. It's gonna be great. So yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if I saw a swap out there. What do you think?
I'm interested in seeing him going to Miami.
Miami, okay,
and,
okay.
And the haul would be you trade Ja Morant out to Miami, you send out Terry Rozier, and you're gonna probably have to give up Tyler Hero at that point.
Hero or Hawkes,
whoever. But the bottom line is, Miami gets Ja Morant, and with that Heat culture, they can straighten Ja Morant's ass out
under Eric Spoelstra,
and Pat Riley, and you bring out Terry Rozier, who is that point guard, that facilitating point guard, and you get Tyler Hero, and then you slide Desmond Bane over to the 3. You put Jaren Jackson at the 4, and you put possibly Zach Edey at the 5. And now you got a pretty good, solid Memphis team. And maybe you throw in like a Jaime Jaquez in there. Maybe you throw a Jovic out there. Whoever it is. But it gives Grizzlies some depth, and it also gives the Heat that star that they've been looking for.
That young star.
Because imagine pairing Ja Morant along with Bam Adebayo.
Talk about athleticism at its finest.
That team is
Andrew Wiggins on the wing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, man.
So it works out for that. Again, that's my dream location. Will it happen? We'll see.
Yeah,
but the bottom line is, Ja Morant needs to change the scenery, because Memphis right now, that place is toxic. Just being honest. It's toxic.
It starts from the top, and it starts with leadership, and it's a shame Taylor Jenkins got fired, and best of luck to him in his job search. I hope he ends up with a team, that, will utilize his services to the best of his ability, because the Grizzlies, it's a shame. They should have just kept him, but that's neither here nor there. We can go on and on, but, let us know whether you guys agree with the firing or not. Do you think the Grizzlies should trade Ja Morant? We think so. I think it's time to kind of start over again, because, out west, you're kind of not contending out there anytime soon. Especially if they got the Lakers in the first round. Yeah, that's not happening.
I still think the Grizzlies will be a tough out.
Yeah,
I just think that they definitely need to move on from Ja Morant.
And like I said, he's a hell of a player, and I'm sure any team that gets him will be grateful. He just needs to change the scenery, because he's going to get a little full of himself. But neither here nor there. You got any closing thoughts? Anything you want to wrap up?
Don't, but we want to give a shout out to all those who have been following us on YouTube, viewing our shorts on TikTok. We do appreciate all the engagement. We encourage you to please continue to comment, like, and subscribe. If you know anybody that loves hoops, please tell them to follow us.
Yep. Dummies on the Hardwood on all platforms.
Dummies on the Hardwood on all platforms.
We appreciate your support. We thank you for the love. That's all you got, Bobby?
That's all I got.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a great rest of your night, and we'll see y'all next week.
Take care.